Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Market Watch Mondays. Good to be back on track this week. I'm recording this Sunday morning ahead of the games. You'll be catching on Monday, of course, so this won't include anything that happens throughout the football day, which is fine for me because of the two main things I wanted to cover. I've already discussed, at length already on Twitter throughout the week. I just want to get a little bit more in depth to make sure all the viewers on the YouTube channel, everywhere else that might not be, so in tune with Twitter like us nerds, make sure you guys know what's going on and make sure you guys know my thoughts on a couple of things. All right, so before we get into everything, as always, if you guys are new to the channel, my name is Mike at Mike Me Up with 2 P's on Twitter and Instagram, and I will be your host, and I will be your only host today, the only content creator you see, the only face you see on this channel in this episode. All right, so hopefully that's good enough for you guys. I know it's not the best thing to look at, but if you need to, turn down that screen, shut off, or just go on Spotify and you can hear the voice without the face. Although I am showing some screenshots today, I'll try and read out some of them so that the viewers on Apple Podcast and Spotify also know what's happening. But honestly, I still feel like the best way to consume my content is usually through video. Even if I'm not putting up charts and stuff, you get to see my facial reactions, so you know when I'm joking, when I'm not joking. I know I have a pretty stale, boring voice. I've been told that my whole life. I'm pretty monotone. So, it actually takes a lot of energy for me to get all excited and all that stuff for the channel. So, video helps you kind of distinguish some of my sarcasm and trolling from the real stuff. But today, we got nothing real stuff, all right? But before we get into it, y'all know what time it is. Hit that intro. All right. So this week, man, I want to talk about a couple of players. Normally, I talk only about strategy, but today I want to talk about a couple of players because I think they are very much in the discussion, in the forefront of Dynasty minds, but also there are some strategic takeaways. I always attach some strategy. Even when there's player evaluations, I'm attaching some strategy to it. And in terms of situations, there is no situation that's more exciting right now than Javonte Williams, right? Everyone's hyped up. Melvin Gordon's out this week. We'll see how he does on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. He, to be fair, I think people need to temper expectations maybe a little bit because they are going on the road against the Chiefs as 9-point dogs, and that is usually not a good recipe for success for running backs. Even though you can rely on them for a few dump offs here and there, but at the end of the day, if you're trailing from behind all the time, chances are you're going to be going for longer bombs. And we all know Teddy Bridgewater is not really a good enough quarterback to support or sustain a good offense outside of the miracle start 4 or 5 weeks of the season. But for me, there's been a lot of Javonte Williams discussion on the timeline this week, right? And people are excited, people are pumped up. It feels like, I tweeted out something, probably on Wednesday or some point in the middle of the week. I said the who can rank Javonte Williams higher competition has gotten a little bit out of hand, in my opinion, right? Right now, he is the running back 4 on Keep Trade Cut, which is, for those of you guys who don't know Keep Trade Cut, it's a pretty cool tool. It's a crowdsourced ADP. So basically, anytime someone goes to their site, they ask you to rank 3 players in terms of keep, trade, or cut, and then they use those thousands and thousands of data points to show you what forms their dynasty rankings, which isn't staff rankings. It's really just crowdfunded, crowdsourced data. And to me, I like that because it's live. People are on the site using it all the time, and you're getting real data points of what people would do. Personally, I like that a lot better than just mock drafts from 3 or 4 people. I don't think that's really representative, but it also has its flaws, right? The one big knock against Keep Trade Cut is it's very reactionary, right? It's very reactionary. Big thing happens, people move data, and there's a lot of probably, fresh new faces, new dynasty players that are going on that site. But to me, that's actually could also be a positive, right? Because most people aren't playing in expert leagues or expert leagues with other analysts and all that stuff, right? Most people are playing home leagues, and home leagues are reactionary, right? People are naturally reactionary, and even in dynasty leagues, right? People always talk about being patient and making sure you're patient, making sure you don't have knee-jerk reactions, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, what happens? People still have knee-jerk reactions. It's just part of the game. People do it. I do it sometimes. It's part of human nature. So as reactive as it is, and as a knock against the site, I really do feel like, it's reactive in terms of dynasty community as well. But more importantly, it shows the ebbs and flows and market movements, like general consensus movements, because it has thousands and thousands of data points, right? And that is much stronger than a lot of the ADP resources out there. So, it's definitely not the be all end all. I have had my knocks against them in terms of their trade calculator and all that stuff. And, they've, being the fine people they are over there, have engaged with me on Twitter, and we've worked those things out, and they're constantly improving. So they're a new product, new company, but you just want to see improvement, and that's all I can see. So I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I don't have any affiliations. I'm just trying to explain the tool that I'm going to reference before using it. But in terms of keep, trade, cut, this is the current Dynasty running back rankings per keep, trade, cut that you're seeing on the screen, all right? Running back 1, Jonathan Taylor, 3rd overall pick. And then you have to go a little bit down the list to get to Najee Harris, who's the current Dynasty running back 2 at pick 10. So those are and then DeAndre Swift right behind him at pick 11. Personally, I would have DeAndre Swift ahead of Najee Harris by a decent amount. And then Javonte Williams making an appearance at running back 4. You can see the change. It's up. He's up 13 spots over the last little while. He's ahead of Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, Antonio Gibson, and Dalvin Cook. And then not even shown on here is Saquon Barkley. So as you can see, I think some of the critique of it being a little bit knee-jerk reaction, a little bit reactive, may be true. But at the same time, it is reflective of public opinion. If you go on Dynasty Twitter, right, people are throwing up polls, Javonte Williams or Christian McCaffrey, and those polls are near dead even, right? And that's kind of what this is showing here as well. So, and then, you're seeing polls, a lot of polls being thrown up on Javonte Williams versus other running backs, and a lot of people in the comments are even saying, look, Javonte Williams get that bell cow roll, yada, yada, yada. He's going to be a stud. And look, I really like Javonte Williams. Right? I love what he brings to the table. He was a dominant force in college in Graham Barfield's yards created in terms of forced tackles missed. And that is a skill that tends to translate from NFL to from college to the pros. That shows how you can create on your own. And Javonte Williams has been doing that in the pros at an NFL best elite level, right? So to get this out of the way, what I want to say is I love Javonte Williams. I always have. But I do not love his price of running back 4 in Dynasty. Top 5 running back. I currently have him. I thought I had him really high. I had him at running back 8 to 10 range in my latest ranks, because I am projecting for that scenario where the most likely case is Melvin Gordon will be gone after this season, right? But the problem is he's not gone yet, right? And also the problem is we don't know what they're going to do in the draft. We don't know if they're going to bring in any other free agents. What if they bring in Lenny Fournette or Ronald Jones or something, right? We just don't know. So that's why a running back 4 price to me tells me that you have running back 1 overall upside. That's the only way for me to justify ranking someone in the top that early, right? That they have eventually top 3, top 5 finishing upside in their DNA, and with the chance of finishing running back 1 overall, right? Because you need that elite upside to win. Does Javonte Williams have that? Yes, he might. If Melvin Gordon leaves, let's say that's one criteria. Another criteria I think is they need to get a quarterback upgrade, right? So whether that's through a Hall of Famer like Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, if they get one of those guys, that ups the tempo of their offense, that ups their scoring drives, that ups the number of reps they get on the offense, that ups the number of opportunities that he will get in the red zone, right? So 2 of those things right there need to happen. And the third one, he needs to get a very, very big uptick in the receiving department, right? Because right now he has some involvement there. Melvin Gordon's obviously vulturing touchdowns. He's vulturing receiving work, which was my main concern coming into this season was, look, Melvin Gordon is not some pleb that's not going to take the high-value touches. He's not a Jordan Howard that's a 2-down grinder, right? He's shown in his career that they brought him in as a receiving back so that he can add to that facet of the game, and on the goal line. So he's got to take over both those things, not get much competition, and then that price is justified, right? If you were to tell me tomorrow, look, Melvin Gordon just got cut, the Denver are the front runners for Aaron Rodgers coming in, I could talk myself into a running back 4, running back 5 valuation, although it would be a little bit of a stretch, right? But as of today, there's just really no way for me to do that. And I think this really ties in with the prior episode, the prior topic I talked about, which was how much veteran running back value there is going to be in Dynasty League starting next year, right? As Dynasty gamers, I think we've taken the chase after youth, concept and pushed it all the way to the maximum, like full foot to the metal, like pedal to the metal, no concern for risk at all. And I don't like to operate that way. Before I'm always the guy. I was always the guy that was like, hey, look, I value youth. I'm willing to be ahead on youth. But it feels like the Dynasty community has just pushed youth so far ahead that like production has come at such a discount, right? And we think as the Dynasty community that the running backs are dead after their rookie contract. That's what people think. And people are going to think of that even more this year because of all the injuries that happened, right? If you look at the top 24 running backs from last week that I showed you, every single person other than Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor has missed significant time in the season. Every single running back. Is that a normal year for running backs? I would argue no. Is running back the most injury-prone position? Yes. But a lot of these older guys are still going to produce for multiple years. Guys like Alvin Kamara, guys like Christian McCaffrey, I said it before, right? And these are both guys who are now going below Javonte Williams, both guys who have already proven that they can be a top 3 producer, running back 1 overall even producer at the position, right? So for me, I'm going to keep betting on those guys because running backs don't just die off, after their value probably hits the value cliff because more and more people are getting overreactionary on youth and all that stuff. But their production does not necessarily fall off. Look at Leonard Fournette, right? He's still producing. If you look at some of the old school guys, and I know it's not fair to compare new school to old school because it seems like old school guys are just fucking built different, right? Like Ladainian Thompson literally touched the ball 400 times a year for like 8 years straight and never missed a game, right? Obviously that's not happening anymore, whether that's because of lower pads or nutrition or whatever it is. So I'm not expecting that, but I'm also not expecting guys to completely just fall off a cliff and just disappear, right? Like, people are always going to refer to like the Todd Gurleys of the world and the David Johnsons of the world, right, as examples. But on the flip side of that, there's also other guys who have produced, into their middle to late 20s, right? Like, I think it's still possible for that to happen, especially at the elite end, right? I'm not talking about like middling guys, right? I'm talking about like Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, who have a very, very top end receiving skill set that I think can translate very well. So my main knock against this ranking list with Javonte Williams and keep your cut is I do think at running back 4, he's very, very overvalued, right? And people always say like, there's a saying that goes around like, look, if their value can't go up anymore, typically you want to explore trading them, right? And that doesn't mean that they're a bad player. It doesn't mean you don't like them as a player. And, Jonathan Taylor, we could have said the same thing, like his value was basically capped, but he still continues to provide value, right? So it's not necessarily that we need to get rid of Jonathan Taylor, but you think about it in terms of the opportunity cost of what that means, right? So if he's a running back 4 overall, or top 5 running back, you can probably start exploring getting 3 first-round picks for Javonte Williams, right? And those 3 first-round picks can be future Javonte Williams, can be future Jonathan Taylors, DeAndre Swifts, especially if you're getting picks in the 2023 class, or future Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. You got a stud 2022 wide receiver class coming in. You got Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, David Bell. Like these are all very, very high-level profile athletes, right? So if you can get a couple of those guys plus a 2023 first-round pick, you completely de-risk that running back 4 overall. Like what happens if they sign Aaron Rodgers and they think, hey, we need another veteran presence on board, or Aaron Rodgers says, hey, we need another veteran presence on board, and they re-sign Melvin Gordon, right? That's a low probability thing, for sure. I understand that, but that's still possible. And his price right now has basically written that off as a possibility. His price right now basically tells you, hey, Javonte Williams is going to be a bell cow back. And I want nothing more than Javonte Williams to become a bell cow back, right? And I think if he gets an opportunity, he's good enough to actually produce and pay off at that price, right? But if not all the stars align and he just ends up being like a low-end running back 1 for the next 3 to 4 years and never hits that top 3, top 4, top 5 ceiling, he's not worth that price, right? To me, he's not worth that price. Look, I would much rather have 2 to 3 league-winning seasons than 5, 6, 7, 8 like low-end RB1 seasons. That's just how I am. And I think if I'm paying that price for a player, they need to have a very, very realistic and probabilistic path to that top 3 upside. And right now, that path is there, but I'm pricing it in not at 100%, whereas I feel like the market is really pricing it in at 100%. And I saw an interesting tweet, the other day on Twitter. I forgot who it was from, but it was something along the lines of like, oh, all these people are saying you should sell Javonte Williams because his value will never be higher. Like, did you also say to sell JT when his value will never be higher? And like, that's a fair question, right? But I don't think that's really the same, because JT at the point that he peaked, he was already like a top 10 running back. He was like running back 8, or I forget exactly what his ranking was last year, but he was already a top 10 running back on a points per game basis as a rookie on a run first team, dominant collegiate profile. Some would argue generational collegiate profile, or generational player, and now he's proving out that case, right? But he's a rare breed, right? He's a rare breed. You don't really see too many JTs out there, and Javonte Williams could be that, but am I willing to pay the price right now to find out? Not exactly, right? And that's the problem. Like, that Denver it could be a good offense, but they still need that quarterback. So until I see all the pieces come together, or at least a path or a likelihood for them to come together, it's just very hard for me to warrant that type of price. And like I said, it just speaks to the whole dynasty mentality of like, everyone's trying to get one leg ahead of the other, right? Everyone's trying to be first and be a little bit earlier. For me, I don't need to be the first. I've said this many times before. I do not need to be the first player there. I do not mean to be the first guy at a certain stop, or the first guy to do something. I just need to be a little bit ahead of the pack, right? And in this case, it feels like the pack is getting so far ahead of themselves and so over their skis that the pricing just no longer makes sense for me. So for me, I still have Javonte Williams in a couple of rosters, right? I probably traded him for too cheap a couple of times, but I still have him on a couple of rosters, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to acquire him anymore going forward, and I'm okay with that, right? And like I said, it comes back to the concept of, people say sell high. A lot of people go on Twitter and they say sell high, and it's some like shitty player that no one wants, right? That's not a good sell high recommendation. That's not a good process or a good advice to give to viewers. For me, when you see me talking about players you should trade away from, they're almost always good players in high demand, right? Why do I do that? Because if there's no demand, there's no such thing as a sell high, right? So, but when I say sell high on a player, it means that I think their opportunity cost of rostering them is much higher than I would like to pay, right? And for Javonte Williams, like just to go off that list that I showed you, like I still prefer Christian McCaffrey to Javonte Williams pretty easily. I still prefer Alvin Kamara to Javonte Williams, right? I think Javonte Williams is probably more on par with like an Antonio Gibson, where we haven't seen that receiving upside yet. We know that he can do it. We know he's a tackle-breaking monster. We know he can be a bell cow, but we just haven't seen it. And I feel like the gap between Javonte Williams and Antonio Gibson shouldn't really be that high. And I feel like now is a time where, maybe not after last week, it depends on what Antonio Gibson does this week. I'm personally very excited because J.D. McKissick is out, but if Antonio Gibson doesn't have a monster week this week, you could explore trading Javonte Williams for Antonio Gibson plus a first. Maybe Javonte Williams plus a second for Antonio Gibson plus a first. And you completely de-risk out of that position, and you still have very similar upside, but you're de-risked by adding a first to the trade, right? So there's a ton of guys here that I would still prefer to Javonte Williams. And honestly, it's not that I think Javonte Williams is bad. Again, when it comes to sell highs, you're putting good players on the block. Like a year ago, I said Devontae Adams was that guy, right? Like a year before that, I was saying DeAndre Hopkins was that guy. I'm always trying to find players at the peak that I can trade out of for similarly productive, similar upside, while de-risking that price. And that's what it comes down to Javonte Williams for me. It's not about me not liking the player. It's about de-risking from that price point for, a player with comparable upside with added benefit. So whether that's a rookie pick, another young upside player, whatever. And I think those are the types of trades you should be exploring whenever, I always say when wide receivers hit that Dynasty wide receiver 1 overall talk, you should be exploring trade talks. Like Jamar Chase. As soon as you hit that talk, you should have been exploring trading Jamar Chase for a haul of stuff. Same with like Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, et cetera, et cetera. Those are always profitable moves. And similarly, I think now, given where youth craze has gone with running backs, you have that same effect, right? So Jonathan Taylor, I'm never looking to trade Jonathan Taylor just for the sake of trading him, because if I'm a contender, I just want to ride him out and win. But if you're not a contender, right, you should be exploring Jonathan Taylor for 3 to 4 first-round picks. KTC has him as the 3rd overall pick, right? And I think at one point they had him as a 1st overall pick. So When you're at that type of value, there's no more room to go but up, and you can completely de-risk your profile and just make those types of godfather trades that set your team up for a dynasty going forward. And that's what it's all about, right? So again, I don't want people to take this video as oh, you need to like dump off Javonte Williams. No, that's not it. Like when I come to you with a player that you should explore trading away or selling high on, it's because that player is really fucking good and they're really in demand. But there are opportunities for you to de-risk at a price point and gain similar production and upside. And I think Javonte Williams has really hit that point, right? He's a player everyone loves, including me, but I just don't love the price point. Go out there, try and get Christian McCaffrey if you're a contender. If you think you're going to contend next year, try and get Alvin Kamara like plus. Try and get, like I said, Antonio Gibson plus. Similar type of like upside, but like just a lot of unknowns regarding coaching, quarterback, offense, like role, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of question marks, and a player that is ranked that highly should not have that many question marks, in my opinion, right? That's just my opinion, and I could be wrong on this. Maybe Javonte Williams goes out today, gets 150 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 or 4 receptions, and then all this talk will make me look stupid. But if that happens, I would still be looking to explore some trades, but I would move him up. Right? I would move him up because we would see some upside of what happens with Melvin Gordon out, and then you can reasonably kind of start projecting that type of role, even though it would only be one game, which is why it's dangerous, right? So again, the whole thing is just a little bit wonky to me. All right. The next player I want to talk about, I want to give a freaking hype shout out to Kyle Pitts, right? The whole weekend, everyone's talking about Javonte Williams. I was out there trying to focus on the positives of Kyle Pitts. And it all started with a Twitter conversation I had with Matt Hicks. Shout out to him. He's at the FF Educator on Twitter, I believe, is his handle. Let me just double check that for you. Yeah, okay, at the FF_educator. Really good follow on Twitter. Really good Devy mind. He's primarily a film guy, I believe. I love following film guys because that's where I learn the most. I'm not good at that aspect of the game, but at the FF_educator. Me and him, we had some back and forth on Kyle Pitts because he went on Twitter and he said like, "Oh, it looks like everyone who thought that Kyle Pitts was a wide receiver was wrong because Jamar Chase has 17.1 points per game, right? Like Jalen Waddle has 15 plus points per game. Devonta Smith has 11, and Kyle Pitts is at 10.2, right? And I took issue with that because here's why. I think Kyle Pitts is having arguably one of the greatest seasons. I mean, probably not even arguably, but he's on pace for 961 yards as a rookie tight end, right? That is historic, right? That is like best of all time type of talk. Now, he hasn't felt like that in your fantasy teams. Why? Because he's only scored 1 touchdown, right? And that's the issue, right? So Matt was using fantasy points per game to measure his success, but to me, it's like as a rookie tight end, even as a rookie wide receiver, right? I'm not necessarily expecting monster production from you, but he's on pace for 961 yards. Here is the list of every single wide receiver, not tight end, every single wide receiver that had 950 yards or more as a rookie. See it. All right, so Justin Jefferson, Anquan Bolden, Odell Beckham, Michael Clayton, AJ Green, AJ Brown. This is everyone since 2000. So basically the modern era. Marcus Colston, Kelvin Benjamin, another all-timer Hall of Fame tight end right there, of course. Dwayne Bowe, Willie Snead. The funny thing about Willie Snead is he has 984 yards, but that was the year that Drew Brees tossed for 4,800 yards, and literally everyone was getting fed. So if you think about his yardage in context of percentage of his team output, it really wasn't that impressive. Sammy Watkins, Eddie Royal, Andre Johnson, Mike Williams, and Julio Jones with 959. So Kyle Pitts is currently on pace to be as good as Julio Jones was in his rookie year. And Julio Jones in his rookie year played alongside Roddy White. Matt Ryan was still kind of at the peak of his powers, right? And he was doing his thing. So to put everything in context, like Kyle Pitts is having one of the greatest seasons ever for tight end, undoubtedly, but also a very historic season even for a rookie wide receiver, right? So for me, all the talk this offseason from those that were true Kyle Pitts stands, right? That wasn't me, because at the beginning of the season, I was kind of like, I'm not that in at this cost because he's a tight end. But all those people that said, like, we need to treat him as a wide receiver, I think they were 100% right. The only thing everyone missed on is touchdowns. And we know that touchdowns is pretty random, right? But look at that. Look at Julio Jones, right? Look at Kyle Pitts. Those are the wide receiver comps, right? And then look at this. So this is courtesy of at Cooper DFF. So those of you guys that don't know, I'm a big fan of Cooper on Twitter. I think he's one of the best analysts out there. At Cooper_DFF on Twitter. These are the Kyle Pitts usage comps. So not only the yardage, like if you look at that group of people that he was in terms of 950 yards plus as a rookie, that was extremely impressive. But we need to look at the peripherals, right? And looking at his peripherals, these are the bucket of comps that he has to go against. So Julio Jones again shows up. Kyle Pitts is at about 19.5% target share, 31% of the team's air yards. So that means not only is he getting targeted, he's targeted deep in those high value areas, right? Will Fuller, very similar to him. T. Higgins, another great rookie wide receiver. Bobby Woods, we all know he's a boss. A.J. Brown is obviously a boss. Dotson and DK Metcalf. So, he is in that bucket of wide receivers. And then here are the tight end comps. Here are the only tight ends that really showed up on Cooper's analysis. So it's Kyle Pitts, Vernon Davis, and Rob Gronkowski. It's very rare to see that type of spread between air yards and target share because a lot of tight ends are working in the slot, they're working in the short and intermediate, and then moving with the yak, right? But that's not how Kyle Pitts is being used. Kyle Pitts is absolutely being used like a wide receiver, and defenses are treating him like a wide receiver. What's really impressive about the season is there's nobody on that team, right? Calvin Ridley had mental health issues and basically retired for the season. So he's gone, and it's basically Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts, and this offense freaking stinks. And Cordero Patterson, sorry, I don't want to disrespect the god himself, Cordero Patterson, but he's a running back. He lines up at wide receiver from time to time, but he is running back, wide receiver, hybrid. Also, apparently, he can play defense now, so there's that. But in terms of the primary coverage from opposing defenses, Kyle Pitts he's getting shadowed, he's getting pressed, he is getting lined up primarily as a wide receiver out wide, not just in the slot, but out wide and in the slot. So everything that I've seen in terms of the evidence points to Kyle Pitts being used as a wide receiver. Now, those touchdowns will come sooner or later, or at least we would expect them to come, right? Because it's not like he struggled in that aspect of the field as a college player. Like, he was a dominant force in the red zone. And part of that just comes down to, one, this offense stinks. They're barely ever in the red zone, right? And when they are in the red zone, there are no other threats to take the threat off him. And Philly guys don't remember, like, Julio Jones also has struggled in his career in the red zone because Matt Ryan just isn't really good there. He's just not good in tight spaces. So does that mean that I'm expecting Kyle Pitts to come back and score 12 touchdowns next season? No, not necessarily. But like in tight end premium leagues, what do we care about? We care about volume, we care about usage, we care about targets, and we care about receptions, right? Because that's where you get the premium is the PPR reception. So for me, I love Kyle Pitts. I think he's absolutely paid off at his top 5, top 3 ADP wherever you got him. The place where I got him was around that 5-6 area because I had quarterbacks ahead of him, and then I had Jamar Chase ahead of him undoubtedly, and then it was like it was between like Najee, Pitts, like in that tier depending on what you needed. So in running back heavy scoring formats, I went with Najee. In less running back heavy scoring formats, or in tight end premium formats, I went with Kyle Pitts, right? So those. I really do feel like that he's paid off, right? If you look at his peripherals, all the screenshots I showed you with Cooper, he is absolutely paid off on the peripherals, right? Like the 20% target share as a rookie, that's pretty damn good for a wide receiver, never mind a tight end. And then 31% air yard share is monstrous opportunity for Kyle Pitts. So if he keeps his pace up, he's obviously, he's had a couple of down games in the past few weeks because defenses are able to just hone in on him and just remove him from the game, right? But if there's any improvements to Atlanta's offense next season, if he takes another step in his development, because again, this is just a year one player, right? He needs to continue to develop his game. Like, these are all aspects where I can easily say and very comfortably project him to have an improvement next year. And then even if he doesn't improve at all, just on positive TD regression alone, he should have like 2 or 3 more touchdowns right now, just based on his yardage total, but he doesn't. And one of the greatest predictors of touchdowns is yardage. And we know he's the red zone weapon. We know he has that skill set. We know he needs to continue to hone in on that. But going forward, I have no concerns with Kyle Pitts. Like, I think he's having a historic rookie season. And for those of the people that thought that you could buy him cheaper, I don't really think that's possible, because the only people that are saying that are disappointed with Kyle Pitts are the ones that don't roster him. Honestly, like, that's what I see on Twitter all the time. It's like, people try and take victory laps like, see, I told you should have faded Kyle Pitts. He's not scoring that much. He only has, 10-point fantasy points per game. But those that do roster Kyle Pitts can see the peripherals, right? Like, I've done the research. I've looked at the numbers. Everything he has so far has been very, very impressive. His PFF grade has been good in year one. His target share has been good in year one. His routes run has been good in year one. His routes run per drop back percentage has been good. Like all of the usage and opportunity is there. Now we just need the production to click. And specifically, we need the touchdowns to click, right? So when I hear someone say like Kyle Pitts is having a disappointing year, what I hear is I only care about touchdowns, because that's really what it comes down to, right? You put a couple more touchdowns on his thing, and then he's in that like top 3, top 4 tight end, and you're basically getting a rookie wide receiver in the tight end position. And again, this is his rookie year. Tight end is a notoriously difficult position to learn, right? It takes people years, like Travis Kelce, like these guys did not break out in year one, right? And a lot of the guys that did break out in year one, like flamed out. Like Evan Ingram was one of the biggest yardage totals in year one. He kind of actually flamed out. But the amount of yardage that Kyle Pitts is getting, the opportunities he's seeing, the usage that he's seeing has been very, very good. It has been not borderline. It has been elite at the position, and it's been very good as a wide receiver. So the talk about Kyle Pitts starting a wide receiver in your tight end position is very, very real. I'm excited to see what Kyle Pitts does going forward in his young career, because if this is how it starts, it's only going to get better when it comes to tight ends and when it comes to touchdowns and all that stuff, right? So personally, I don't think you should be panicking. If anything, if anyone is panicking, you should be acquiring him. But honestly, I don't think anyone in the know and people that know what they're doing are going to be trying to sell him low, right? I don't think there should be that much of a gap between a Jamar Chase and a Kyle Pitts, to be honest, in a tight end premium format, that is, right? I really don't think there should be that much of a gap. I understand Jamar Chase is generational, all that stuff, but the advantage that Kyle Pitts can give you at the tight end position, he will ultimately be, he has the greatest shot to be that next Darren Waller, Travis Kelce, and within the next 2 years, right? And that's just based on his rookie trajectory, right? So for me, Kyle Pitts, absolutely someone that I'd be willing to buy high on, someone that you should be exploring, going out, sending trade offers if anyone is panicking, because once those TDs click, there's going to be nothing else to say, right? All the haters are not going to be able to say anything else. If he gets a couple good TD runs down the stretch, if he shows up in that department, there's going to be very little to knock against him. But hopefully he doesn't, because those that understand how touchdowns work, how random they are, all the things that have to click for them to go right, and the inherent randomness that is associated with them, know that that's not something that you chase. We here want to chase opportunity, and I'm just going to put up on the screen one last time, courtesy of @Cooper_DFF. This is the type of opportunity that Kyle Pitts is getting as a rookie, right? Comparable to Julio Jones, Will Fuller, T. Higgins, Robert Woods, A.J. Brown, Aaron Dotson, and DK Metcalf. Like those are some great players to be in position with. And obviously, Will Fuller, health was the issue. It was never really talent or his ability to play. So, but everyone else on that list, fellow former Falcon teammate Julio Jones, like these are really, really good players to be among. So do not be fooled by the fantasy points scored, because that is a direct reflection of his lack of TD production this year, right? So Kyle Pitts is my Dynasty tight end 1 overall. I think he is going to be an absolute monster going forward, and I don't think you can get it for cheap, but that's fine. I'm willing to pay up and buy high on him, because I'm buying the opportunity, I'm buying the talent, I'm buying everything that is being sold about Kyle Pitts. Hopefully Calvin Ridley comes back next year so they have a real offense. If not, they need to add someone on that offense. They need to boost that somehow, but even short of that, just another year of development of this generational player. I feel like I really do feel like he has. I mean, generational to me is just very, very rare and comes around once in a few years. And if you look at the tight end complex for him, it's just Vernon Davis and Rob Gronkowski. That's it. That's the list. There's no one else that's getting this type of usage that we're seeing from Kyle Pitts. So I do feel like he has a potential to be a generational type player, and I'm willing to pay up the premium and get him. So I'd be willing to trade another tight end plus future picks. There's a lot of talk about Pat Freiermuth. People are like, oh wow, look at what Pat's doing. He was a better value. To me, I don't even think it's remotely close. So if you can give up Pat Freiermuth and a first for Kyle Pitts, smash that all day long, right? But maybe even Pat Freiermuth plus another young player plus a second, but Kyle Pitts is worth Freiermuth plus a first and more, if you are trying to acquire him. So that's where I'm at with Kyle Pitts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed those two discussion topics. Two really, really hot players. Two really, really, contrasting views of where I'm at with them compared to the rest of the market, or compared to the rest of Twitter, whatever you want to say. But I think One is someone that you should be exploring to trade away, to sell high on. One, I think you should be looking to buy high on. So there's two different players, two different views. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. That's all I got for you this week. But before we head out, make sure you guys, again, come over. Check out the Patreon, man. Patreon's lighting up. I just dropped my Dynasty, Devi, comprehensive, tiered, position-wide composite rankings in the Patreon. That happened on December 1st. And then usually the first of every month, or first or second of every month, I'm dropping rankings. So that just came out. We're going to get a live stream going here probably next week. And just a lot of good discussions in Discord, trade talk, freaking crypto chatter if you're into that shit, and all that stuff. So come on over, patreon.com/ourpack, patreon.com/ourpack. It is the best Dynasty community money can buy. I guarantee that to you today from yours truly. Check me out, mic me up with 2Ps on Twitter. Holler at me. Hopefully you guys enjoy the Sunday full slate of games. And then lastly, don't forget about our partners over at Dynasty Nerds. We're big fans of them. They got a great tool over there called the Dynasty GM tool, which really just aggregates all of your leagues together. So if you're like me in multiple leagues, 3, 4, 5, 6, or in my case 25 leagues, it pulls everything into one spot, tells you how your league stacks up in terms of value, where you're at. Are you a true contender? Are you a rebuilder? And then from there, you can kind of use that info to go out and make trades, and helps keep track of all your players in one place as well, so you know where your players are, and to know, make those last minute start swaps decisions and whatnot. So, and if you go on over there, use the promo code Wolfpack. Use the promo code Wolfpack, or click the link in the description below. That one works as well as a referral link. You will get 20% off all their products, Dynasty Nerd Herd, GM tool, whatever you want. All right, so make sure you guys check them out. It's a great tool. It's a great place, great folks who I love, and that's where I started. So nothing but love for Dynasty Nerds, guys. So make sure you guys check it out. All right, that's all I got for you guys this week. Until next week, again, enjoy that Sunday slate of games, man. We don't have many of these left. All right, just be blessed about the football we're about to ensue. Hopefully no more injuries to star players, please. No more injuries. But other than that, man, hope you guys enjoy, and I'm out.